3 minutes. That was the absolute maximum amount of time Elias Thorne calculated he had before the screams in the high street turned into silence. He was crouching behind a stack of fermented mead barrels outside the Hog's Head, his chest heaving against the rough wood. The air smelled of ozone and burning thatch. Green light flashed rhythmically against the cobblestones, casting long, frantic shadows that danced like skeletons. 1, 2, 3, 4 flashes. 7 Death Eaters. They had sealed the exits with anti-apparition jinxes that shimmered like oil slicks in the air. Elias looked down at his hand. He was gripping a rough, unpolished stick that looked less like a wand and more like something you would snap over your knee to start a campfire. It was thick, knotted, and ugly. The other 6th years called it the Firewood. They laughed when he couldn't float a feather in charms because the wand would just set the feather on fire. They snickered when his shield charms collapsed into sparks. But right now, that ugly stick was vibrating against his palm, hot to the touch, humming with a raw, chaotic energy that felt less like magic and more like a caged animal trying to chew its way out. He peeked around the barrel. The Death Eaters were moving in a phalanx, wands raised, efficiently cutting down the few brave shopkeepers trying to fight back. They were disciplined, they were precise, and they were walking straight into a bottleneck. The alleyway narrowed to just 6 feet wide, right where Elias was hiding. If he ran, the family cowering in the doorway behind him would be dead in 30 seconds. If he fought, he would probably be dead in 20. But Elias knew something about his wand that the purebloods in their silk masks didn't. He knew it didn't cast spells, it detonated them. If you want to know how this forgotten student turned a piece of firewood into the only thing standing between Hogsmeade and a massacre, stay with me until the end of this story. Elias closed his eyes for a split second, remembering the day he bought it. Ollivander had frowned, his pale eyes wide. He had said the wood was blackthorn, notoriously stubborn, but the core was a mistake, a dragon heartstring that had been harvested too crudely, retaining too much aggression. Ollivander had offered to dismantle it, calling it a hazard to the user. Elias, whose family could barely afford the robes on his back, had asked for a discount instead. He had spent 6 years learning to suppress the wand's violent urges, sweating through exams just to keep it from blowing up his desk. Tonight, he stopped suppressing. He stepped out from behind the barrels. "Hey!" he shouted, his voice cracked, betraying his fear. The lead Death Eater, a tall figure in a silver mask, paused and turned. He saw a boy in slightly too short robes holding a gnarly stick. The Death Eater laughed, a low, wet sound, and lazily flicked his wand. A purple hex, probably a bone breaker, spiraled toward Elias. In class, you are taught to parry. You are taught the precise wrist movement of Protego. Elias didn't do that. He gripped his wand with 2 hands like a bat and slashed it downward, screaming a simple, disarming charm. Expelliarmus! It shouldn't have worked. The red light that erupted from the tip of his wand wasn't a beam. It was a shockwave. It didn't hit the Death Eater's wand. It hit the cobblestones 3 feet in front of him. The unstable core discharged everything at once. The ground exploded. The blast wave threw Elias backward into the barrels, knocking the wind out of him. But the effect on the narrow alley was catastrophic. The cobblestones shattered into shrapnel, spraying the front line of the Death Eaters with high-velocity stone fragments. The lead attacker was lifted off his feet and thrown back into his comrades. His shield charm overloaded by the sheer, uncompressed volume of magic. Dust billowed up, thick and blinding. 1 down, 6 to go. 150 seconds. Elias scrambled up, his ears ringing. He couldn't hear the curses flying at him, but he saw the jets of green and red cutting through the dust. He didn't try to aim at the flashes. His wand wasn't a sniper rifle. It was a blunderbuss. He pointed the knotty tip at the brick wall of the post office above the Death Eaters' heads and shouted, "Reducto!" A normal Reducto curse drills a hole. Elias's wand released a jagged bolt of blue lightning that struck the wall and simply erased the structural integrity of the brickwork. Tons of masonry, slate roof tiles, and heavy oak beams came crashing down into the smoke. The screaming started then, not from the civilians, but from the attackers. He was moving now, running low to the ground, using the chaos. He felt a stinging slice across his cheek, a cutting curse that missed by an inch, but he didn't stop. He slid behind a stone trough used for horses. His wand was burning his hand now, the wood actually smoking. It fed on his adrenaline. It wanted to destroy. 2 Death Eaters stumbled out of the dust, coughing, their masks cracked. They saw him. "Avada!" one began. Elias didn't wait. He thrust his wand into the water of the trough and cast Glacius. The spell didn't just freeze the water. The unstable magic flash froze the air in a 10-foot radius. The trough shattered from the rapid expansion, sending shards of ice flying like daggers. The sudden drop in temperature created a pressure vacuum that sucked the breath out of the alley. The 2 Death Eaters collapsed, gasping, their robes stiff with frost, their wands slipping from numb fingers. 3 and 4 down, 1 minute left. The remaining 3 were cautious now. They realized this wasn't a duel. They stopped advancing and spread out, taking cover behind the debris. They were professionals. They would flank him. Elias could hear them communicating, their voices muffled by masks. They were going to coordinate a killing curse volley. He was cornered. His wand arm was trembling so badly he had to brace it against his knee. He had maybe 2 spells left before the core burned out completely or the wand exploded in his hand. If this forgotten legend of Hogwarts is already touching your heart and you would like to help keep these stories alive, you can support the channel by clicking the thanks button below the video. Every little bit helps me continue bringing you more hidden tales of courage and magic. Elias looked at the firewood. The tip was glowing cherry red like iron in a forge. He could feel the dragon heartstring pulsing, dying, giving up its last reserves. He remembered the mockery in the common room. "Why don't you get a real wand, Thorn? That thing is a liability." They were right. It was a liability, and that was exactly what he needed. He stood up. He didn't hide. He walked right into the center of the street. The 3 Death Eaters rose from cover, wands raised in unison. The air crackled with the buildup of the killing curse. Elias didn't cast a spell at them. He reversed his grip on his wand, holding it by the burning tip, and threw it. It tumbled through the air, an ugly, smoking stick spinning end over end. The Death Eaters paused, confused. It looked pathetic, a last act of defiance from a desperate child. The wand landed in the center of the triangle they had formed. Elias threw himself flat on the ground and covered his head. Only then did he whisper the activation word, not a spell, but a command to the core he had bonded with. Release. The wand didn't just explode. It unmade itself. The unstable dragon heartstring, released from the binding wood, detonated with the force of a confringo magnified 10 times over. A sphere of pure white concussive force expanded outward. The sound was deafening. It wasn't a bang. It was a physical blow to the chest of everyone within 50 yards. The windows of every shop in the high street blew out simultaneously. The 3 Death Eaters were lifted off their feet and hurled backward like rag dolls, their shields shuttering instantly under the point-blank magical discharge. Silence. Elias lay on the cobblestones, covered in dust, glass, and splinters. His hand was blistered. His ears were bleeding. He waited for the green light. He waited for the pain. But there was only the sound of settling debris and the distant wailing of alarms. He pushed himself up on shaky arms. The alley was a ruin. Craters in the road, walls stripped of plaster. And 7 figures in black robes lay scattered across the ground, groaning or unconscious. Not one was standing. A pop echoed through the street, then another, then a dozen. The auras had arrived. Red-robed figures swarmed the scene, wands lit, scanning for the threat. They saw the devastation. They saw the fallen Death Eaters, some of the most wanted dark wizards in Britain, taken down in what looked like a demolition site. And then they saw Elias. He was sitting on the edge of the broken horse trough, nursing his burned hand. There was no wand, just a pile of ash and a few charred splinters where the stick had landed. An aura, a tall woman with a scarred face, approached him slowly, her wand lowered. She looked at the unconscious Death Eaters, then back at the boy. She scanned the area for the powerful wizard who must have intervened, the high-level duelist capable of this kind of raw destruction. "Where did they go?" she asked, her voice urgent. "The one who did this, where is the wizard?" Elias looked up. His face was streaked with soot. He looked at his empty hand where the firewood used to be. He thought about the years of shame, the laughter, the feeling that he was broken because his magic didn't look like everyone else's. "It was just me," he croaked. The aura stared at him. She looked at the wreckage. the kind of damage usually caused by a rogue giant or a catastrophic potion failure. "You?" she whispered. "But how?" Elias didn't have the energy to explain about the unstable core or the lack of binding agents. He didn't have the energy to explain that he hadn't dueled them. He had simply unleashed the disaster he carried in his pocket every day. I didn't try to fix it this time," he said softly. "I just let it break." Later, the report would be buried. The ministry didn't like admitting that a student with a defective wand had done the job of a hit squad. They classified the incident as a structural collapse due to stray spellfire that incapacitated the attackers. Elias was given a new wand by the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, a standard, stable, obedient wand of oak and unicorn hair. It cast beautiful charms. It made perfect shields. It never got hot. But sometimes, when the nights were quiet and the dark felt a little too close, Elias missed the firewood. He missed the heavy, dangerous weight of it. He missed the knowledge that while other wizards cast spells, he held a storm in his hand. He learned that night that perfection isn't the only way to win. Sometimes you don't need a rapier. Sometimes you need a brick. And sometimes the very thing the world mocks you for is the only thing that can save it. If this forgotten legend of Hogwarts touched your heart, tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Elias's place? Like the video, share it with another Harry Potter fan, and subscribe to hear more hidden stories of courage, magic, and impossible odds.